Now I'm live. Okay. Someone is saying to me that I am now. I don't know what happened. So I was talking for no one. So what I was, so let me start from the beginning. Um, First of all, welcome to the podcast next door. Second of all, I just want to remind you that we are live every Tuesdays at 12. So today with a little bit of a delay because suddenly I was not live anymore. And the main objective, the main intention for these lives is really to bring in different perspectives. How can we support people? And that's why the name, right? The name The Coaches Next Door is really like we want to bring more people that are working in supporting others and helping others. Um, and yes, sometimes I have guests, sometimes I'm by myself, and today is one of the days that I'm doing this by myself. But that also gives the possibility of me talking about things that are really close to my heart and really makes me feel engaged with my own practice. And that's one of the things that I really like. So today I bring a topic that is really close to my heart in so different ways, in so many different ways. I will of course show you a little bit on why and how this topic became so relevant for me. So let's start from the beginning. When I start my coaching practice, but even before I was like, I think some of you already know, I was a teacher in high school and university. So that gave me a big perspective that people don't learn the same way, people don't engage the same way. So it's a lot of nuances and how we do this life. And what I realized a little bit more evident in high school when I was a teacher there was that yes, some kids will be really struggling with the system. Okay, so that made me at that moment very, let's say, willing to really engage with them and really realizing, okay, what is going on with this kids that is preventing them to to show themselves and to be in the system and still have good grades and everything. So I remember, for instance, a student of mine that in class he was really good, but then when he needed to perform in a task, for instance, on exam, he couldn't. Like the brain, and one time he came to me and said, "Teacher, this goes totally blank." So that made me really like, okay, how can I help? How can I support him for him to really not even improve? It's just to show what he knows. So I started working and studying a lot on this neurodiversity topics, and that was like 20 many years ago. So and that maybe because of that, maybe because I was very aware of that, and also with some tools already. When I started my coaching practice, I entered, uh, let's say, in a very natural way, the world of supporting people with neurodiversity. So I worked with people diagnosed with autism at that time, other diagnoses that now are a little bit out of the stream, what is good, but ADHD. So I enter a lot on that field. Um, and in 2017, I got my youngest one, so my youngest son. And at the age of 1 year, 1 year and a half, we asked, we took Adam for a diagnosis. So he's diagnosed with autism, level of support 2, because Adam was nonverbal, now is conversational. So Adam cannot build a conversation, but he can already say some words. And this reality of my youngest son also brought a very different perspective about the topic. Because when we are supporting, when we are from the other side, right, we are just supporting parents, or we are even supporting the kids, we have tools, and we operate in a certain space and time. We also are focused on, let's say, supporting that person to gain new strategies and new ways of being operational in a society context. Okay, when I became a mom of an autist child, things changed, because I needed also to, the day-to-day things that as a coach you don't need. Of course, you realize and you resonate and you empathize and whatever you want to say, but you don't need to deal with, for instance, people looking at you in a supermarket, or even taking decisions like what is the best school and what is the best hobby, and getting that notion made the game really change for me. So because I also wanted to be the mom. Okay, I want to be the mom. I don't want to be the therapist of for Adam. I don't want to to be the teacher for Adam or anything like that. But the interesting part was that, for instance, in the school of Adam, of course, I have a different experience. I have a knowledge as well. I cannot ignore that, right? So when I go to school, and that happened already, I gave also some ideas how they could engage not only with Adam but with other children. And one interesting thing is that when I go there, the children really connect. So something I realize, okay, I do really something different here. And even the teachers were asking me to do some workshops there. What I found really interesting, and of course very creates in me also an enthusiastic point. But also, what also happened is that my husband also had a brain cancer. So he was not neurodiverse, but he became neurodiverse. Okay, so that is something that we also need to realize, is that we have people that are born with that condition, so they are neurodiverse, but we have people that they can become neurodiverse by several different reasons. Sometimes accidents, sometimes injuries, but sometimes brain cancer, for instance, is one of the ways. Other type of diagnosis also, like Alzheimer and things like that. So what makes that, and some studies are showing that more than 45%, I think I'm in the right number. I think it's even a little bit more, to be honest, but I don't want to emphasize a lot, so I will put it in 45%. 45% of the population, the active population, in 10 years will be neurodiverse. So we need to, realize that, yes, sometimes when we are supporting people, we are supporting also people that have a neurodiverse way of being. So this is really important because requires different tools and different strategies than when we are talking about um, neurotypical people. And I know that a lot is being said about the neurodiverse, and I also want to make a statement here, okay? I personally don't agree that neurodiverse diagnoses are done only on the frame of behavior. So when a psychologist, and I respect fully the work, okay, but when a psychologist does a diagnosis of autism, for instance, or any other ADHD is very common. I'm talking about the most common ones, is based on behavior, okay, is based on checking and even sometimes some tests, behavioral tests. I think this is really dangerous. Okay. Why? Because neurodiversity is not a behavior condition. Okay. So neurodiversity, it's not a strategy to deal with the world. It's not a behavioral thing. Can be manifested in a behavior, but it's not a behavior. It's a different way of our body system to process information. So this is for me very relevant because I sometimes get people that got a diagnosis, and when we go deeper, they have a certain level of strategies going around, like strategies being behaviors that they learned to correspond to something or a context, okay? And then they repeat that behavior, but that doesn't necessarily means that that is a condition. A very practical example to help us to distinguish between strategies and condition. My son, and I'm going to use this example, my son cannot have a conversation, okay? So that is one of the conditions of his autism. So the brain cannot build up a conversation. It doesn't reply to questions. It doesn't tell a story. Okay. But sometimes it doesn't speak. And this not speaking, it's not a condition, it's a behavior that he has, for instance, when he doesn't engage with a person. So you see the difference? So he can, but he doesn't. So this is the difference. The difference between one of the first things that when we are working with neurodiverse individuals is realizing what is a condition. So that cannot be changed in a couple of seconds, and what is a behavior that is being just a repetition that for some reason works. So we call this a strategy to deal with the world and with themselves. Let me give you another example. For instance, when people need to regulate their emotions, and that is also very common in neurodiverse people, right? So they need to, the condition, okay, is that they have a higher peak of emotions, and that will trigger a little bit of overwhelming also in the body system. But the strategy for them to deal with this condition, they are very different. Okay, some of them rotate, some of them do gestures, repeated gestures with the hands, some of them scream, some of them do all of this together, some of them just they need just to sit by themselves, some of them just need to go for a run. So you have the same condition, okay, but we have different strategies to deal with this condition. And when we are supporting individuals with neurodiversity, this is the first thing that we need to clean up. What is the real condition? Like, what cannot be changed, at least not in a short amount of time, because we also sometimes are not totally aware of the full condition. Sometimes, for instance, some neurologists will say, we don't know. So nothing physically here, for instance, prevent this child from talking, but we don't know because we don't know what is happening there. We cannot, unfortunately, still measure everything that is going to happen in our brain, okay? There's a lot of unknown. But we have at least a condition that is present right now, that, okay, this kid or this person is not talking, or this person cannot process abstract information, or this person cannot distinguish between them and the world. This is also a condition. So this is something that we know and is there for now. The main thing, and this is something that I always say most part of the times to parents, okay, when they come, and of course is, and we cannot be naive, okay? Of course, we want our kids to fit. We will like our kids to just fit, so can be a very deep desire of healing the condition. And that's not wrong, but is not real. So I always say it's not wrong that you desire, and you should not feel bad about it, that you desire that that condition is going to disappear. But at least for that time, it's not the reality. So we also need to face that reality. And what happens is that a lot of parents, they sometimes deeply inside, they want to heal the condition. Okay. And this brings a lot of space for frustration and a lot of space of also sadness. And the main thing for us as a support element is to bring in more strategies to deal with this condition. And sometimes dealing with this condition is bringing strategies that are also more healthy for the family, or more healthy sometimes even for the individual. So our main work as a support element on this context is to really make sure that we amplify strategies, because the condition is most part of the times not under our influence. And is important that we realize this, okay? And it's important that we are bringing this very clearly to the person that is receiving, if he's an adult, but also to the parents, for instance, if are the parents that are bringing a child. We are working on the field of amplifying strategies, not dealing or healing the condition. Okay, this is the main thing that is important to put out there. The second thing is, how do we do that? And if you already heard me saying many times that congruency and alignment is important for coaches and therapists, oh wow, when we are working with neurodiverse individuals, that goes to a different type of level. things that I will say you should not be doing. Okay, and I'm going to start there because sometimes it's easy to understand. For instance, one of the things that I see, and I have that in the space that I also use as my office for my coaching sessions, is people changing all the time the rooms that they coach in. So they receive the people in different rooms every time because they have flexible packages. So they change rooms, and sometimes even they change location. So they go around with different locations. Don't do that. I will say don't do that in a normal coaching session. Imagine when you are working in the field of neurodiversity. Don't do that. Okay, environment tends to be a very important thing for neurodiverse people. The environment tends to, like for all of us, but in this case, and I'm going to focus now on this particular field, is even more important. Okay, so if you are always changing rooms, for instance, an environment with that, you are obligating your client to always be adapting. And this is not good because not only you lose a lot of time in your sessions to create again that safety, not only for yourself as the coach or therapist, but or psychologist, but also for your client to adapt to the environment. So it's a lot of waste of time in the session. If you have a session of 1 hour, for instance, that you can count that maybe 50 minutes are lost with this. And also, it's more a challenge for the person to really feel like, okay, I know what is coming. Even if you don't have a very defined like steps in your session, or even if you don't know exactly what is going to happen in your session, that even brings extra stress for your client. So making sure that you are taking your client to the same environment, to the same space, is very important. Even if you can, I normally tend to do the sessions, and everyone, my clients know, I have fixed days and times for the coaching sessions. So it's possible that the person has the session always on the same day, always on the same time. Yeah. So that creates routine. That is so much easier for the client to, start the session and just connect immediately. Is a huge gain of time. Okay. But also a huge gain of trust. Yeah. So pay attention to your space and times when we are working with neurodiverse individuals. The the third thing, I was taking the third, but I think it's the third already, is pay attention to your language. Okay. If you want to work with a neurodiverse individual, and when you realize the conditions that he has, you need really to stay on that language. So let me give you an example. If the other day I was coaching someone, and she's very logic, and she likes, and she says, okay, it's so much faster if things make sense to me. And the use of thinking language is much more easier than the feeling language for me. So when I coach her, I always start with the thinking language. I always say, what do you think? And after she can name what she's thinking, I go like, okay, how that makes you feel. I don't give up on the feeling, but I start with what makes her feel more comfortable to open the conversation. So technically we call this backtracking. So that means that you stay in the language that the person normally uses, because you want to take away the effort to understand. Okay, you want to you want to release the person from that uncomfortable feeling that, okay, I'm not getting it. Why? Because of the emotional trigger that that can bring to a neurodiverse person. So with a neurodiverse individual, we really need to backtrack. So if the person is using a type of language, a type of words, stay there to start. And then you can help translate that in a different language. And this is already, like you can already hear, this is already amplifying strategies, right? So you are helping the person to gain a new word or a new meaning for that situation. So do that. Pay attention to the language that you are using. Okay. For instance, I'm going to use another example from my son, and even the way that you do that. For instance, sometimes people go and ask him questions. He's not going to reply. But if you say it, like for instance, Adam, do you want to put your shoes on? And he's like, it doesn't reply. And then if you say, Adam, let's put your shoes on, and he goes like, shoes? So he's not asking because he's not going to reply to questions. He's saying it, and then he's going to confirm it. This is so important. Because sometimes people say to me, and coaches that I mentor, they say, oh, but the person is not reacting to me. Of course not. If that is a condition, why you are, putting putting the effort there? Nothing is going to change there. So go, and you need to be the one also gaining more strategies to deal with that, right? So, and this is a slight difference that will make a big difference at the end. So pay attention. What is the trigger of the person? If the person is not going to reply to questions, why are you asking questions? And this for a coach, sometimes like, oh, but it's not coaching asking powerful questions. No, not only coaching is provoking change and supporting change. If you are not changing anything by asking questions, you are not doing anything. So you are not being a coach, you are doing something else, right? So it's not only one strategy. Yeah. So that is one of the things that I want to call your attention to is that is that you need to adapt. And when you are working with this particular field of neurodiversity, oh yeah, you are the one that needs to adapt first to gain your the adaptation of your client. Okay, so that is really a very different type of game, if you understand what I mean. So you need to be the one bringing new strategies, adapting, because your client maybe doesn't have that amount of strategies that maybe you have. I don't know if I'm going too fast. Let me know if you have any questions or anything that I didn't explain so well. So please ask me all your questions, because I can be talking about it for a long time. Another thing that is very important is if I say a lot of times that rapport is important with neurodiverse people, you need to really amplify your game. Okay, so it's almost like, and this is something that I hear a lot with my son, for instance, is that, how do you know? Said, I know because I'm in a deep rapport with him, and of course I'm his mom. Okay, so I have an understanding of what is going on in a very different level, of course. But if you want, you can have that with someone else. I'm going to give an example. One time I was in the school of my son, and I was there in the classroom, and one of the kids got really overwhelmed, and he was screaming and a little bit agitated also in his body. And the teacher, was like, "Oh, what is going on?" And then I looked, and I said, "Can I touch him?" And it's like, "Oh, if you think that it's going to work." So I put my hands on his back, and he calmed down, and I said, "Oh, I think I know what he's looking for." And he was looking for a toy that he could not find, was hidden. Sorry. So, but that you can say, "Oh, but how do you know?" I said, "Because I was observing him. Where are you looking at? Where is the point that?" And he was looking like, So I was like, I'm totally seeing you. I'm not trying, and this is a shift in our mindset. I'm not trying to calm you down yet. I'm just trying to observe you. Uh, Trying not, I'm really observing. I'm really seeing. I'm not still on the frame of I'm going to change this. No, I'm just observing. Where are you looking? What are your movements? And what can I learn from it? Okay. What can I get? What is the information that I can get from that? And when I get that information, then we go for the change part. That is, okay, now that I know, I'm going to calm you down with whatever strategy works for you. And this is something that we really need to, shift our mindset. Because the tendency, for instance, if someone is screaming, is that we stop the person from screaming, right? But in this case, it's not helping, because we first, before we stop the screaming, we need to understand why the screaming is coming. Then we can be a better support. Okay, so the thing is, again, I'm going to the beginning, and is the idea that we need to solve things. And with a neurodiverse person, is even more evident that we cannot solve everything. And this sometimes is like, oh, even for me, it's like, oh, okay, I cannot solve this. It's not something for me to solve. It's something for me to relate with. Okay. And as a mom is exactly the same thing. Or as a wife, with my husband, it's like, I cannot change this reality. I cannot change the fact that my son is not going to reply to me. I can just relate with that. And this is a shift. And this is like, a big shift in our mindset. And I to be honest, I think with that shift that I got, more really evident in a daily basis, in a minute to minute, basis with my son, I really also helped me when I'm doing this with other people, not even neurodiverse individuals, but some things are just really not for me to solve, and some things are for no one to solve. We just need to relate with that in the way that is possible, right? So I think this is a huge shift in our mindset, but also that will reflect in our attitude with another person. And even in organizations that I support in this field, I see that, oh, let's solve this. And I said, no, this is not to solve. It's not possible to solve this. We need to find strategies to deal with this. I'm going to give you also an example, a personal example. I'm dyslexic, okay, and yeah, it's not possible to solve it. Some things I could already find a strategy, for instance, for space, right and left, for instance. But some things are really not possible. So I find different strategies to deal with that. For instance, artificial intelligence and all the apps help me a lot because instead of me sending, imagine my texts, because I write a lot, sending all my texts to be revised. Now it's much simple because I put my text in one of the apps, and the apps get me the mistakes. Just give me the mistakes. And even they automatically create a substitution. So even apps that I say, okay, I have difficulty with this word, this word, this, please get aware that these words can be mixed in my text. This is like super cool, right? So, but it's not possible to solve it. I just need to find faster, easier strategies to deal with that. It is what it is. So sometimes I think parents can suffer a little bit with this, and maybe parents and leaders, right? Because sometimes the leadership is also trying to improve the performance because they see that the person is able, but yeah, it's not coming so naturally. And I go like, it's not about solving, it's not about taking this let's say taking this condition from the person. That's not going to happen. So how can we find new strategies, faster, healthier, more on time, for the person also to feel, okay, I got this, and it's okay that, yeah, maybe alone I cannot do that, but if I have other strategies, I can deal with that. And I think this, when we are working with people, this is the most important thing, is to shift this idea that we can take the condition away from the person. We cannot. Most part of the times we cannot. So it's about finding strategies. And for me, the most important thing when we start doing coaching with a neurodiverse person is to realize what is the condition, what is the strategies, and how many strategies can we incorporate to deal with this condition. This is the main thing. This is our main job. And I also want to say, I didn't say in the beginning, that I found a foundation, it's Peter Koyan Foundation, that is really working on the neurodiversity. And we even offer free workshops. It's a non-profit organization. We also have some material to support parents and to support neurodiverse individuals to deal with a little bit of the world, So that's how close this topic is for me. And the foundation is really to, we don't want to take the condition from you. It's not even our job, but our job is to make your life easier and your life a little bit more, enjoyable for yourself, that you feel, okay, this is what I want to do. What strategies can I use? So that is the main work on the foundation. So if you feel any curiosity, I hope you feel curiosity about the Peter Koyan Foundation, please connect with us. Also to say that we are going to have on the 11th of October the premiere of the short documentary that explains a little bit on the neurodiversity and also our journey through the brain cancer and how, as a family, we dealt with that. So it's the premiere and also the formal presentation of the foundation that has already 2.5 years. But yeah, we were working a lot on the backstage. So now it's time to really go out there. So if you want to join, this premiere is in Amsterdam on the 11th of Friday, in the end of the afternoon, and it will be a real pleasure to meet you there and to also share a little bit on our vision of how to deal and how to be in a diverse world, and the tendency is that the world will be more and more diverse. That is the tendency. So thank you so much again for being with me. I hope this makes sense, and I hope to see you